Well, for more, we can speak now to our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons, who is standing by. Rob, clearly the big cloud of uncertainty hanging over this nascent presidency is, of course, the question of whether Raisi will seek a deal to free up the republic's battered economy, or will he put obstacles in the way?
Yeah, that really is the big question. It is interesting that during the electoral campaign for the presidency, Ebrahim Raisi did not campaign against the JCPOA. It's been known in the past that he's been sceptical about it, but during the campaign, he did not campaign against the JCPOA. And he knows that it is also the key to the economy. If he can't get a deal on the JCPOA, if sanctions are not lifted, it's going to be well nigh impossible for him to promise the improvement in the economy that he's been talking about. At the same time, Javad Zarif, the outgoing foreign minister, has let it be known that he has managed to put in place what he calls at least the framework for a deal to be achieved. So the conditions are there, but the obstacles, it has to be said, are enormous as well, not least of them being a law introduced by the Iranian parliament in December, which said that sanctions have to be lifted before any new deal on the JCPOA can be achieved. And in addition to that, there's all the latest developments over the attack on shipping off the coast of Oman and off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. In the first case, an Israeli-linked ship was attacked by a drone. A Romanian and a British citizen were killed in that. And the United States has been talking with its allies, including the United Kingdom and Israel, about the possibility of collective action in response. Well, Israel would clearly like that. Anything to sink the nuclear deal with Iran. And Antony Blinken has been warning too that time is running out for Iran to strike a deal. The diplomacy has to be achieved quickly, or he is suggesting it's not going to work at all. So it's going to be difficult, there's no doubt about that. But there is an interest on the Iranian side in getting a deal done.
And Rob, this new president in Iran has also spoken of reconnecting with his fellow countrymen and women. What does he mean by that?
Yeah. Well, you know, you hinted at it in your introduction when you pointed out that despite the fact that Raisi won an overwhelming victory in the presidential election, turnout was only 48%, despite the enormous efforts that the Iranian state made to get people to turn out. The problem is, as he clearly recognizes, is disenchantment with the theocratic state in Iran. How you turn that around, given the fact that economic conditions have never been worse, certainly in recent memory in Iran, is going to be enormously difficult. Sanctions, no question about it, have ravaged the Iranian economy. Raisi may talk about redirecting the economy away, realigning the Iranian economy away from the West and towards China and Russia. But he knows that, at least in the short and medium term, that's not going to cut it. The biggest markets are in the West. He needs a deal on the JCPOA, on the nuclear agreement, to end the sanctions and allow him to get money coming back into the country again. At the moment, unemployment is enormously high. The currency has been catastrophically devalued. Inflation is over 40%. And there are protests all over the country. We saw most recently in Khuzestan in the southwest protests over water shortages. But they're not the only protests, and they're not the only shortages. There are shortages of electricity. There are shortages of food and medicines, food at least that is affordable. And on top of that, Iran has the worst record on COVID in the Middle East, 91,000 deaths. And now Raisi knows that the buck stops with him. He can no longer put the blame on a reformist government. He has to take responsibility. It's a big burden for him to carry.